Enter madman, stage left. The audience rises and holds their breath. They let the vampires into their house, pretend they don't see when the teeth come out. Put a band-aid on their throat. No one wants to rock the boat, and no one wants to talk about it. You're not supposed to talk about it. The curtain rises and the players come out. Webs of lies spinning from their mouths. Start looking, listen for a little while. Attention to the men behind the curtain. Just look away when you see the blood spurting down to a steady.
Hello everybody and welcome. Let me turn off this audio here. Welcome to the Iron Mountain Hour. My name is Cliff. I'm joined by Tim via the magic of Skype. He's out there somewhere in radio land. If you'll let us know whenever you're in here, Tim, he'll pop up on the screen. So glad to have you with us tonight. It is Thursday, August the 31st, 2023. I'm coming to you live here from Carter County, Tennessee, right here in the middle of the Iron Mountain Hour, in the middle of the Iron Mountain. Probably going to be a bit of a short show tonight. I'm a little stuffy. Did work in a crawl space all day, and even though I was wearing a respirator, a little stuffy in the nose. We did have a plan for Constable Dustin Baker to come on the show tonight, and he ended up not getting relieved at a charity function that he was taking care of. So he was basically in charge of it, so he wasn't able to leave. So he'll get back with us. He was going to come and tell us about the Carter County Elizabethton Priority News and Alerts page, and we saw. Well, we were going to talk about some examples of how citizen journalism is trumping the mainstream journalism pages in a lot of ways because they get the information out there faster. They're also holding the feet to the fire of local first responders, authorities, dispatch, and a lot of them are people with experience in that field is what I'm gathering. So that may be why we see things like on the Elizabeth and Carter County Priority News and Alerts page that say things like, "Hey, dispatch, did you even bother to get a description of that vehicle that the officer stopped there?" Hope nothing's happened. So they're holding their feet to the fire. They're holding the officers' feet to the fire, stuff like that, making sure everybody is looking out for their community. They are also alerting the community of weather, different things, crimes, prowlers in the area, all the stuff that comes across the scanner that you may not normally see. Even if you watch the news, it probably just doesn't make it out there. So they're doing the community a great service. Most of them are volunteer. Hey, what's up, Stephen Lee? Yeah, I'm all right. I'm just a little stuffy and not great for, my voice is not great for talking tonight. I'm breathing out my mouth. Kind of sucks. But glad to have you with us. And joining me, as I said, somewhere there, he's giving me a black screen now. Maybe he is supporting George Floyd. But okay, I don't have a screen from you. Okay, I can see you on Skype. That's weird. Let's switch over and try it again. Boop. Yeah. Well, I hope your voice is coming across. Let's see. I'll check that feed real quick. Yeah, well, I hope your voice is coming across. And I don't think it is. I'll check that feed real quick. So Tim is with me somewhere out there in Radio Land, and it's not coming through. So it's just one of those things, man. You got us both tonight. All right, Steph and Lee. Nice. We are definitely having a Stephen Lee day. Let's see if I can get this Skype set up to work right. It's always nice when it decides, okay, you've had all week to update, but right before we start the show is when it decides to update. Sometimes it changes settings, and I don't even know it. Hey, give me a check there, Tim. Let me see if I can. It seems like he just went away. Now he's ringing in my ear. Let's see if we can get him this time. And he is back in my ears. Let's see if he's on the screen. Sorry for the technical difficulties, folks. And he is not there. So I don't know what's up with that, but his source is just completely gone off my screen, which is strange. Let me see if we can get out your audio at least, Tim, and if not, I'll just have to continue without you tonight and see if I can figure out what changed after this update. What, babe? What power? Voodoo? I got nothing, man. I'm sorry, guys. We're going to have to do without Tim. I'm going to make it a short show anyway. I don't have time to really fix it on the fly and do a short show. So I just wanted to show you a couple things that happened in Tennessee this past week. And Tim, maybe it'll let him pop in just a minute. I don't know what the hell's going on there. But I was going... All right, sounds good. I don't know what's going on with it, but here we are. And there we are out in studio land. Here we go. It's just me. Oh boy, oh boy. Everybody say bye to Tim. I'm sure he's listening out there. And do I even have... Okay, I do have audio. So that's good. It's always good to have audio. I just wanted to go over a few stories with you. I had a lot of things set up for my show with Constable Dustin Baker tonight, but I had some other stuff that I was going to ask him about, so we can look at some of that stuff, and then I'm sure I'll have new stories when he comes back around. So we had, and we were talking about how important independent media and independent volunteer information sharing groups. Another one that I see a lot is Tri-Cities Weather and Alert Crew. I don't know who that is, but they shared this post the other day. They had a massive warehouse fire down in Newport, Tennessee, at a plastics factory. I think it was Smith's Plastics Factory. But whichever it was, these Facebook pages are getting the information out there faster than the local mainstream media. So by the time they can get a van down there and get a remote crew live, these photos have been shared on Scanner Food. This was from the 28th at Scott's Plastics Warehouse near the Utility Board down in Newport, Tennessee. It was a pretty big fire there. And Scanner Food had that information out before anybody, at least that I saw. And then you have, like I said, Scanner Food is kind of regional to all the way up into southwestern Virginia, and even I saw a post on there about Hazard, Kentucky today. So they kind of have a larger radius around the Tri-Cities area, but they seem to be primarily focused on the Tri-Cities and within a couple hours from it. But all kinds of information on there all the time. This is just volunteer, and I'm sure in some cases that some of these pages are making money. I mean, Scanner Food's got like, I don't know, 500,000 followers, something like that. Let's just see how many they have. Yeah, 250,000 followers. They did have one called Scanner Feed. Then they had to make a new page. I guess they somehow violated the terms of service, or they were accused of violating the terms of service. You know how that can be. And if you can't really, if there's, if they decide that you've violated it, then you really can't convince them. So, this one was making the rounds in Colorado. I don't know if you saw this. This boy Jaden, he had gone to school with his Gadsden flag patch on his backpack. And don't worry, we're going to come back to the local stuff, but I just wanted to show you all this. This will tie in a little bit, but hopefully I'm going to have to monitor on the fly here on my phone to make sure that y'all can see this, but hopefully y'all can see and hear this. Actually, let me make sure. And maybe you already have, but if you haven't, we'll catch you up. And let me make sure that is on. Okay. And this is out of Colorado.
Oh, thank you. Do they know what the Gadsden flag is? That it's a historical flag?
So there, the reason that they do not want the flag, the reason we do not want the flag displayed is due to its origins with slavery and slave trade. That is what was, that's the reason behind them do not want it displayed.
The Gadsden flag.
The Don't Tread on Me.
which is the Gadsden Club. Okay, so he what's gonna happen if he doesn't take it off?
He is able.
I'm just sorry. I just want you to see this. Get a good look at this face. It's not going to let me zoom in on it, but that's the face that's treading on you right now. Honestly, there's that boy. He was wearing his patches. Don't tread on me, and she tried to use the excuse that it had to do with slavery, when really that's the Revolutionary War patch. And the snake there represents the idea that the snake is not dangerous unless it's tread upon. So you don't step on the snake, and you don't have any trouble from it. But that kid wore it on the backpack, and turns out he's been making the rounds all over the place. It ended up going through the school board, and they lost this guy. And here's another picture of his backpack. He's got a Firearms Policy Coalition patch on his back, which I'm surprised, they let him carry the Firearms Policy Coalition, which that's a great group. It's one of the best out there for Second Amendment rights, if you're into that kind of thing, which I certainly am, and the channel certainly is. And Firearms Policy Coalition, along with Gun Owners of America, are two of the strongest voices there. Firearms Policy Coalition actually won a couple of really big lawsuits there at the federal level that helped to protect gun rights for a long time to come, hopefully. But he's got his, obviously he's a Ron Paul fan, or his parents are, because he's got the revolution with love backwards there. And if you see, he's got a Bitcoin patch, he's got a Dogecoin patch, he's got a Firearms Policy Coalition cap, and somewhere on there his backpack says "based," and so they were saying that he was a hate speech because he said "based." Jaden was his name on his backpack, but. He wasn't allowed to go into class, so he went to school and refused to go into class and just sit there where they made him sit. And he's like, I don't want to do this, but you're making me do this, basically, and stood his ground. So whether or not you agree with his political views there that he has on his patch, and maybe he's 12 years old, so you're starting to develop your own sense of self there and sense of philosophy, but maybe he just got it from his parents, who knows. But either way, good for that kid for standing up for something that he believes in, and basically not letting the man push him around. And he ended up getting but the city council voted, and he was allowed to wear his patch. They didn't try to stop him from going to school anymore. So good for based Jaden. Attaboy. And good for his parents too. Because a lot of people don't have the courage to stand up to these petty tyrants, when they try to push you around and stuff like this. And that was one of the reasons that the COVID policies worked so well against the American people, is nobody wants to stand up to a nice sounding lady, and that's the thing. There are a lot of nice sounding ladies in positions of authority, and nice sounding gentlemen too, but they just try to be reasonable, right? Nobody, you don't want to hurt my feelings by telling me no, or refusing to comply with whatever it is. And it's not like it's somebody right in your face most of the time, making it a confrontation where you actually know something to do with it. It's kind of to throw you off kilter. Well, you're a bad American, or you're a bad citizen if you don't follow this policy. Meanwhile, where did this policy come from? Well, this was, from the city council, or this was from whatever, and we're interpreting it this way as they were there. So yeah, Stephen Lee says, good for him. Freedom. That's right. And like I said, the story continued with base Jaden going back to school. No problems. He was an outstanding student, straight A's, and good for him. So Firearms Policy Coalition, that's whose patch was on his bag there. So to take you from here, we've got Firearms Policy Coalition memeing Bill Lee hard here. Governor Bill Lee, the governor of Tennessee. Governor Bill Lee's special red flag session has adjourned with no gun control pass. JoinFPC.org. Grassroots Army whim. The Tennessee House and Senate have adjourned the special session without passing any gun control. Now, if you remember, we did an episode on this program back. I forget. Gosh, it feels like it's been a year ago, but I don't think it's been that long. I think it was right after the Nashville shooting, and which they still haven't released that manifesto, by the way. Meanwhile, you got a white racist kid. They released the manifesto immediately, but you have somebody of different color or sexual orientation or whatever. They're too afraid to. They don't want to. What do you call it? They want to cast shade on that agenda, I guess, or whatever, so they can't have anything negative being associated with it, because that's against your diversity, equity, and inclusion kind of thing, their social credit score kind of thing, so they just kind of leave that out. Meanwhile, Bill Lee, he's asking for gun control. He's asking for red flag laws, because if we just have red flag laws, we could have stopped that shooter from doing what they had done. And now, I got to remind you, this person had everything, legally owned, everything like that. I believe that was the case. Don't quote me on that. So all these things happen so quickly, and you kind of forget. But I'm pretty sure that one was the woman there who was. And that was the funny thing too. Like they never really. When they said they didn't want to say it was transgender person, then you're like, oh, well, that seems like that would be a male dressing as female, because, typically biological females don't engage in this sort of behavior. But then it turned out it was a female to male transsexual. I forget her name, Audrey Hale, I believe was her name. And we saw the heroic Chads down there in the Nashville Police Department taking her out and stopping her before she hurt anybody else. But after that, Bill Lee, in the wake of it, he wanted to basically have what other states have had as a red flag, where if you are reported or suspected, or even your neighbor or an ex-girlfriend or somebody says to the police that you are a threat, they will then take your firearms without further investigation and then investigate you and decide if you get to have your firearms back. And that did not fly in Tennessee. I wrote all the local representatives and the governor's office and all this stuff about this, and I got a real quick response from several of the state representatives, just basically like, don't worry, like we don't support any gun control. We're not going to pass any gun control. Now, I was going to talk to Constable Dustin about this too, because in the time since the sheriff's election here in Carter County, the ATF did indeed try to pass a rule that a pistol brace is now makes a rifle caliber pistol an NFA item. So I had asked Sheriff Fraley when he was running if they passed that rule, would he begin to arrest citizens of Carter County for possession of a braced rifle caliber pistol? He said he would not. He also said that when I pressed him a little further, I asked him, would you use that to take somebody out for another charge if you could? And he was a little wishy-washy on that one. But I can kind of understand his point. He's like, well, yeah, if say there was some meth heads had a baby in a trailer, and I knew they were in there cooking meth with the baby, but I didn't have any proof of it, and then I saw them with a braced pistol that I could use that to get in the door. Yeah, I would do that to save the baby, basically. So he's like, but that's a pretty extreme situation. We're not going to go around policing these things. So, I definitely would like to know if that policy is still in place. And I would say that I appreciated his response. He also, I don't know, if it was just because he thought this was what I wanted to hear or whatever. Because, even though he does seem like an honest man, at the same time, at the end of the day, when you run for sheriff, you are a politician. But he told me that if there were any, attempts at confiscating some of these, that he would have law enforcement at the house or at the border of the county or wherever it was to stop it, and wouldn't cooperate in any of these things with federal agencies attempting to enforce unconstitutional laws, and would do what he could to protect his citizens' rights. So it was pretty good on it for me. And he he is aware of Richard Mack, the constitutional sheriff, which I thought was a good thing. So it seems like we have a decent sheriff up here. But at least on that subject. But Bill Lee wanted to pass red flag laws. He wanted to, so what he called, make it easier for cops. But really what he wants to do is appeal to the same people that, you know, basically have been implementing all the policies that are causing the situation where we have a lot of these, you know, high crime areas, and then a lot of poor mental health outcomes. But to go on from there, the special session did end without a gun control bill passed. They did pass 4 bills, and we got a couple of little stories here. This one's from WJHL. The special session is over. Where does Tennessee go from here? And they basically were, you know, the House majority leader said, you know, basically that these are bad ideas and we're not going to pass any of that stuff. And then it all kind of devolved into this next little thing. Not quite a caning in the halls of Congress, but still a little more excitement than they usually see down there at the State House in Nashville. Then we got video here from WKRN. That's going to take just a minute to warm up there because, you know, they got to load all their ads and all that good stuff. But the Tennessee session ended in it says chaos, but if you've seen some of those parliaments from other countries around the world where they get into these great big knockdown drag-out fights, that's chaos. I wouldn't necessarily call this chaos. While waiting for the video to load, I'm going to read you a little bit here. And I like watching the video, but I like reading this too, and imagining how they actually said, because they asked Cameron Sexton what happened. Apparently, he was walking out, and you can see on the video that Representative Justin Pearson was standing right in his path and was holding a sign in his face, and kind of bumped into him. And they asked Cameron Sexton what he said, and or what happened, you know, and he said, well, he came in and popped me as I was walking through the crowd, and they asked him what did he say, and I quote, I told him don't bump me, and I just like read, hey, don't bump me. That's a tough guy right there. But I mean, it's in the halls of the State House there, right on the floor, and the video will be ready in about 7 seconds. I'm not going to subject you guys to this, skincare, skincare commercial. Let me catch you. All right, here we go. Fun stuff right here.
To end today, what was already a powder keg of tension and emotion spilled over onto the House floor Tuesday morning. The special session is over, but not without fireworks. As the House adjourned, Representative Justin Pearson got in the Speaker of the House Cameron Sexton's face. 2 other representatives then bumped Pearson out of the way.
Hey, don't you bump me!
He started to yell and scream as though we had done something. Representative Jones was pushed by Representative Sapicki as well. We're holding signs and demanding that we protect kids.
I kind of like how these guys just kind of shoulder check him up here. If you watch right here after Sexton goes by and these 2 other representatives here, I don't know who they are. They just kind of bump him out of the way. That's how you push somebody out of the church. You know, that's how the big guys. If you need to be removed from the church, that's kind of how they do. They just kind of bump you out.
Kids and not guns.
Security put their hand on the back, which knocked me forward, and I can't remember, there's a photographer, when you look at it, that was to my left. And so we moved right, and then at that point we keep walking, and then you have Representative Pearson that comes in and pops me from the right side.
I asked Sexton what he said to Pearson in that moment.
I told him, don't bump me.
It was a fitting end, as it put a bow on 6 days of arguing, tension, Cold War, an ostrich egg, and only 4 bills actually getting passed.
Now, what were they saying there? Were they saying, let's go home? I couldn't exactly tell. It's one of those weird things. My earbuds are not, the whole program is not working correctly. It's not transmitting my sound from my computer to my earbuds, so I had a little bit of a hard time hearing it. Let's try to listen to that again real quick. Thank
The Senate and
fun,
House Republicans were at odds with each other all week, with the Senate successfully trying not to pass any more bills.
Is that we
Let's
had
look
done
back at it.
something. Representative Jones was pushed by Representative Sapicki as well. For holding signs and demanding that we protect kids and not guns.
Security put their hand on the back, which knocked me forward, and I can't remember, there's a photographer, when you look at it, that was to my left. And so we moved right, and then at that point we keep walking, and then Representative Pearson that comes in and pops me from the right side.
I asked Sexton what he said to Pearson in that moment.
I told him, don't bump me.
It was a fitting end, as it put a bow on 6 days of arguing, tension, Cold War, an ostrich egg, and only 4 bills actually getting passed. The
I mean,
Senate
they
and House
were.
Republicans
They
at-
were physically bumping against him. So I don't know why you'd expect, to hold a sign and shout in somebody's face and then physically chest bump him, and have him not push you out of
odds
the
with
way.
each other all week, with the Senate.
That's kind of what you do if in a civil setting. If somebody does that to you, and in other settings, you would knock them out. Now let's see. Joe says, what did he say? What does he say? Oh wait a minute. Here we go. Stephen Lee says, might have to be careful standing up. Might get Clinton. Yeah, that's right. Might get the old Arkansas car ride, huh? Joe says, could possibly be the greatest. Oh, wait a minute. Let me read. Joe says, could possibly be the greatest, if not the best kid in the school. And Stephen Lee says, 12-year-old speaks and the adult uses ignorance. That's right. Yeah, she sure did. And the thing is, I know she's ignorant, but she's not that ignorant. She's just saying whatever she can to. And the kid, he also went and took a picture. I think is assumedly her car, and it had a whole bunch of like progressive and borderline communist bumper stickers and stuff on it. So she knew what she was doing. She was trying to use whatever she could to silence the political message of what she sees as her political opponents. She probably sees a lot of kids liked based Jaden, and probably she's worried that other kids are gonna follow in his footsteps, because when the establishment. When the left wing and the progressives took over the establishment, they became the establishment. They became the man, right? Nobody wants to listen to the man, even if the man's telling you to, do sex, drugs, and rock and roll. Eventually, enough generations, I think, have seen what that leads to, and I thought a lot of this, this newer generation, I guess they call them Generation Alpha, or I don't know if they're Generation Z or Generation Alpha. I guess they're Alpha, but they're like, sex, drugs, and rock and roll doesn't look very fun. And not only that, the man is the one kind of pushing that lifestyle. So, it's like once you take control of something and start telling everybody to do it, it's not cool anymore, right? Like just like tattoos that are not cool anymore. You're cooler if you don't have a tattoo now. When I got out of high school, very few people had tattoos, and I thought, oh, this is going to make me cool or whatever. Not exactly that, but I thought it would make me stand out some at the time. And now everybody has tattoos, and if you don't have any tattoos, that's when you really stand out. Stephen Lee says, trash from Memphis remind me of trash from Philly. Yeah, there was. I had a Memphis story on here. What was it? Oh, yeah, it was just a funny thing I was going to mention. There was like a lady, a postal service driver out in Memphis, just driving around tossing packages out, and then there was apparently there was some big arrest in Memphis too, which there kind of always are. Memphis is, and a lot of times people will use they'll try to use crime statistics against a state like Tennessee, and don't get me wrong, there's plenty of crime in Tennessee, but they try to make it sound like red states have higher crime rates, when really what it is the high population center in Memphis really brings up the crime rate of the whole state. But there's a lot of crime, and I'm not there's a lot more crime than there used to be in this area. You got not that homeless and criminals are one and the same, but you're seeing a lot of people on the streets. You're seeing a lot of meth heads. You're seeing a lot of people walking around, on drugs and homeless, and that makes you more desperate. And whether or not you are the type of person who's inclined to commit crimes because you're desperate, is that's a talk for another day, because that's on an individual basis. So I'm not saying everybody who's homeless is inclined to commit crimes, but if you were homeless, you're more inclined to be desperate, which means you're more inclined to commit crimes. And there's a lot of crimes, there's a lot of homeless, there's a lot of drugs, there's people overdosing all the time. There's I talked to a feller, had to he was we'll just say he was involved in a self-defense shooting, and when he was talking to the cops, they were like, oh yeah, this happens all the time, way more than you think, that, you know, somebody just attacks somebody and they have to shoot them. It doesn't make it on the news, you know, it doesn't, but there's apparently a lot of those cases out there. All right, I'm going to finish it up with one last thing tonight, and this kind of goes along with, you know, we kind of talked about more political and news related stuff tonight, but this is the last one for tonight. This is kind of more in line with what we do here at the Iron Mountain Hour, and evidently, according to The Hill, the Department of Defense released a new website on today that will provide official declassified information on UFOs, including pictures and videos for the public to easily parse through. So it's still under construction, but let's look at it here for a second if it'll pull up. aaro.mil. And you might say, Cliff, you don't want to be on those sites, you'll be on a list. Well, we're already there, baby. We're already there. That ship has sailed. They definitely know, anybody who, you know, wants to know knows who we are and knows who you are, probably, if you're into this kind of thing. We passed that line about 20 years ago. So don't be afraid of information. Just, you know, be aware. And we've got, this looks like a pretty, I don't know what the word, amateur, I guess, website. Coming soon, U.S. government UAP related program activity reported. So we got reporting trends right here, and you know, it's like kind of all the reports collected, and different altitudes, different characteristics, morphology, where they are, is it weather related. You know, there's not much on here right now. But let's go to official UAP video. It's probably the fucking TikTok video. Let's see what we got. This is UAP video, South Asian object. It says likely a commercial aircraft. Well, why did you put it on the website if it's likely a commercial aircraft? You know, if it's so let's see here. This one is unidentified. The object in the clip is not exhibiting anomalous behavior, though, they say, but it remains unidentified. And no full screen. Garbage, man. Garbage. There we go. Now that was a pretty good one. It looks like, I know what that is. Y'all ever seen Harry Potter? That's a snitch. Right? Isn't that what those things are called? Or a snitch? Now, I don't really know. That could even be a falling object. You know, it could just be tracked as it falls. I don't really know. But the AARO, the All Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, says that it's unidentified. And that looks a lot like those ones that we saw going around the crop circles in the video that we did on crop circles. Y'all remember that? That was pretty wild. I'd never seen it. If you haven't seen our episode on crop circles, go back and watch it. We show you. It's probably fairly near the end of the episode because we kind of build up to it. But there's these little objects flying around, and people catch them on a camera in 1991. And so it's not like that they faked these things. And these little objects fly around the crop circles, and just as they do, the crop circle just appears underneath it. It's pretty wild. It took me a long time to find that video too. It's not in many places. Let's see here. Let's find another one. See, most of these are like, I guess this is the TikTok here, but how do you, I mean, how are we even supposed to know what we're looking at? When they give us a video from, you know, like the gun camera of a plane or something like that, or FLIR video, of, and none of these even are giving me video. So this site's definitely still under construction. Definitely very like the government to put it together, put it up before it's put together. And see, look at this. What is this? There's all kinds of great videos of UFOs out there, and this is the shit they give you. Like, okay, it's only significant because the government is admitting that it's real. Meanwhile, there's plenty of things that they've seen that you know, who knows if they're real or not, but they don't debunk them or anything. You ever been on UFOcasebook.com? I don't think it's around anymore, but it used to be the best site for finding these things, man. They would put up new stuff all the time. I haven't really researched it. Oh yeah, it's still up here. Let's see here. Here's one from over England. Oh, wait a minute. UFOs over England. No, that's from History Channel. That's not what we want. I'm sure that's a good one, but let's see here. Arrow-shaped UFO over Argentina. That could be a... Here we go. Here's an oval sphere moving vertically over rush hour traffic. I think they must have revamped UFO Casebook because it wasn't looking this good last time I was here. But there's a sphere shape. Now, if y'all have watched the show for a long time, you've seen my UFO sphere that I showed on the channel that I filmed up here on the Iron Mountain. And this guy runs an online magazine called Outer Limits, though. It's kind of suspicious, but then again, people who would be more likely to see that would be people who are looking for it. So he saw a tic-tac shaped device, or first he thought it was a tic-tac shaped device. And let's look at the video here real quick.
An unidentified flying object, UFO, was spotted on a highway in Tamaulipas, Mexico, according to a photograph shared.
I guess it's just a photograph.
I'm standing in front of my heat track system.
No, you're not.
The minute it starts to snow or freezing.
So I guess they found a way to save the site by putting all those embeds on them. But anyway, yeah, so you love being on their list. Yeah, that's right. That's the new tattoo, is being on the list, right? Because you don't want to be the only one left not on the list, right? And I used to hear things about all different color lists and things like this, and like, oh, you're definitely put yourself in a position where you're trying to share this information out. I imagine you're on the red list in some way. But definitely appreciate y'all joining us tonight, and we're gonna have some new stuff to talk about. Yeah, that may be too. It may mean they fear you. I mean, that's got to be what it means. It's not that they fear me as an individual. It means that they fear all of us acting as individuals, and not only that, working together. Because you see things like, that's why I'm here to promote things like Scanner Food and Elizabeth and Carter County Priority News and Alerts and this program, and Stephen Lee, y'all out there doing your thing. Independent media, bringing the message directly to the people without the middleman. I mean, we do still have YouTube, but we got a lot of freedom here. Okay, we got way more freedom than we would if we were working for WJHL. And no salt on people who work at WJHL, but they're owned by Nexstar, and they're owned like 10% BlackRock, 10% Vanguard, and 6% State Street Capital, something like that. Don't quote me on those exact numbers. We did a program on it about 2 years ago where we looked at who owns your local media, and they're owned by the same people that own your national media for the most part. Sinclair is independent more than the rest of them, but they're still owned, and they're conservative, but they're still, you've seen the video of where all the newscasters are repeating the same thing. This is very dangerous for our democracy and this kind of thing. That was Sinclair, and they basically were putting out their mission statement through all their channels, and somebody caught them, all reading the same thing, and showed that they were really on a script. And yeah, that might have just been their mission statement, but overall, there's things that fly and things that don't fly, and Sinclair gets to pick what that is. And they may be more conservative, but they're really just the opposing force of Nexstar, which is Pepsi and Coke news, just like Pepsi and Coke politics, which is to water everything down to where you're fighting over, fractions in the middle rather than anything of actually any significance. But I'll always keep being real, Stephen Lee. So glad to have you with us. I'm going to go ahead and head out of here tonight because I can't hardly breathe and need to go get myself cleaned up and ready for another day in the crawl space tomorrow. So I appreciate everybody, and we'd love to have you with us. I'm not sure exactly when we're getting Dustin back yet. I got to be in touch with him, and we'll work that out. But Sunday we'll have a show with either a guest or the thing. I've got 3 guests lined up real soon. We're going to have Wilbur Kilb in. We're going to have, he's going to be back in, or I'm sorry, Dr. T. Kilb. Dr. T. Kilb. That's right. We're going to have him back in from East Tennessee Design and East Tennessee Mellow Moon Distillery. He's going to be showing us some more of his Vodka Moon products and some of his printing promotions and things like this. So we're also going to have him come in. We're going to have Moose Trainwreck Roberts back in the studio, and we're still going to have Dustin happening. He's going to come in and talk to us about being a constable and working with the page for Elizabeth and Carter County News and Priority Alerts. And man, I said that page right every other time except for that one. Elizabeth and Carter County Priority News and Alerts. So definitely keep on keeping on out there. Keep up the good fight. If you believe in something, stand up for it. Don't be afraid to. And you'll find other people that are going to stand with you. But it just takes the guts to do it. And I think you got it. So appreciate you joining us. We'll see you next time. Have a good night.